Moderator. Today's workshop will
来，
be
我请学生
opened
跟你
by
讲。
Professor
来，
Mei-ying Chen, and it will
那
be
个民
followed
聪
by
院
the
长都听不
welcoming
到声音。
remarks and presentations by the keynote speakers. Professor Mei, floor is yours.
Okay, hi everyone, my dear friends from Aceh, and good morning to university friends from State Ibu Muhammadiyah Abdiyah, and as well as teachers and supervisors from Kabupaten Pendik Abdiyah. It's a great pleasure to have you all, and we try to learn from each other from Taiwan side and Indonesia side. So it's a great opportunities for us all to participate and to learn about Vygotsky together. And it's my honors to host such an event, such a workshop. God, Buddha, and whatever you believe in will bless us. Have a good workshop, as well as, and God bless you. Have a beautiful, nice weekend and good features. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Mei, for opening the workshop. Well, I would like to invite the head of STKIP Muhammadiyah Aceh Barat Daya, Mr. Afdal Jihad, to give a brief opening speech. Floor is yours. Kepada Bapak Afdal Jihad, kami persilakan.
你的那个投影片要出来，移到下一张。现在是那个校长，
Iya.
Oh, 他没有开啦，胡安没有开，你没有开麦克风啊。
I did it before. Yeah, but okay, I would like to invite our Dean of College of Education, Mr. Mei-ying Chen, PhD. Floor is yours. Suddenly it's like just turn off.
我们继续邀请那个。
Zufrio 吗？
没有要等他，因为没有他就要去上。
很多人在里面，他们为什么都会错的会议室？
啊，我知道了，他们都打。为什么会2个？好，那没关系。Let's invite
Okay, Professor.
院长，不好意思，对，我们好像在不同的会议室。
所以刚刚应该到你们会议室。
对，老师，你们好像跑错会议室。对，我现在把正确会议室的连接传到你们的。所有的匿名的来宾匿名，还有就是这间会议室的基本。我现在赶快把它传到那个你们的留言板。
所以这个就是有人创的第2个才会可以。他可能要去上。
看得到留言板。
可能这个会议室的会议室的连接。没关系，那 OK, so let's invite the Hong Yu or your side because I think that he is. 因为他也没接我去，有点关系。
老师们都跑错了。
所有的老师都跑。
老师们都
喂，你都很上说那个会议室，刚好有。对，好。就刚刚不是用刚刚的那个新的就好了。
我来跟他。
哦，这样哦。好。哦，好，那因为好，那我懂了，那我就是要
我们先从这个会议室。
好，那我先挂了，因为他们不知道。
对，我们 leave this room immediately and then go to the lobby， 然后我们会滑到最下面。
没有，现在那个你送到我们的那群组，最新的有吗？正确的。
对，
老师email 给他们。
吴玉老师是用 email 吗？
不是啦。
老师你是怎么进来这个？
Sebentar ya.
好，老师你的 email。
那你在跟谁讲话？
吴玉老师。
没有，我给他就好。
好，那个梅老师会给你。林聪老师。
你跟他说林聪老师的老师送过去了，看看有没有收到。
那个林聪老师那个林老师有在那个链接给你。老师是不是要给我？
对，我上面没有。送到他们去啊，如意的也是。
哇，
但是 use 的，用早上那个 line 那个对的吗？我刚刚送的是 line 的呢。
Okay, finally I entered the correct conference room. Okay, sorry about going to the wrong conference room. And let me say hello to
这个吗？是这个吗？哦
，OK. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and welcome all of you again. Yeah. Good morning, and everybody. I just represent our university, National Jia University, to welcome all of our honored guests to join this very small, but I think that you will be interested and wonderful workshop for these 2 days. And I believe also although we could not meet face to face to have a discussion, but I believe this online workshop will give us a very interesting opportunity to discuss the theory about the social culture theory in language learning or language teaching. And in addition to welcome all of you, I will especially say thank you to say thanks to Dr. Chen to host this small and wonderful online workshop. And I just hope all of you can just enjoy this 2-day workshop. And I also hope we could just meet face to face in the future very soon, and we could have a further contact and discussion about the theory of related to language teaching. Finally, I just hope all of you enjoy this 2 days workshop, and we'll just welcome all of you again. Thank you.
梅英，你没声音。
Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Mei-ying Chen for your welcoming speech. And then the next one, I would like to invite our professor, the Chief Director of Teacher Education Center, Professor Hung Ru Yu. Okay, floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you and welcome all. It's a great pleasure to see the international workshop hosted by Professor Mei-ying Chen, who does a lot of contribution to this event. I hope that everyone can benefit and enjoy this event very much. I believe so, and I wish this international collaboration can continue in the future, and that we can have a face-to-face and more a beneficial event in the future. Okay, I wish that we could have more deeper collaboration. And many thanks to all the guests and especially to the host, Professor Mei-ying. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. And then now I would like to invite the head of STKIP Muhammadiyah Aceh Barat Daya to give a brief opening speech. Kepada Pak Afdal Jihad kami persilakan.
Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, selamat pagi untuk kita semua. Apa namanya, yang kami hormati Prof. Mei-ying Chen dan seluruh fasilitator dalam kegiatan workshop ini. Kemudian Pak Jufri, terima kasih atas telah mengajak guru pendidikan bahasa Inggris untuk menjadi partisipan dalam kegiatan workshop ini. Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebagai partisipan yang sudah hadir dalam workshop ini. Yang pertama, kami mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada panitia yang menyelenggarakan workshop ini. Bagi kami di daerah, ini adalah kegiatan yang sangat penting dalam rangka kami ikut meningkatkan mutu pendidikan di Aceh Barat Daya ini. Dan mudah-mudahan dengan kegiatan workshop pada hari ini memperkaya kita semua untuk kita bisa terlibat dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan di Aceh Barat Daya. Dan mudah-mudahan kegiatan ini bisa diikuti oleh komunitas-komunitas lain atau kabupaten-kabupaten lain di Provinsi Aceh ini. Terima kasih Prof. Mei-ying Chen dan seluruh fasilitator atas kesempatan ini. Dan kami kira ini kegiatan ini sangat penting sekali dan mudah-mudahan bisa dilakukan untuk di kabupaten lainnya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih banyak kepada Pak Afdal Jihad yang sudah memberikan a briefly welcoming speech. Okay, the next one, I would like to invite our English Education Department, Mr. Sukri Adani. Pak Sukri Adani. Apa Pak Sukri Adani sudah ada di room? Pak Sukri. Okay, maybe she get some problem with our internet connection. It's okay. And then now I would like to invite our professor chairwoman of our Department of Education, National Che University, Professor Su Mei Chang.
竹妹在吗？ Okay. I don't think she is in. That's okay. Maybe just skip. She's not okay. Allow me to try again. Okay. So hold on just a second. I try again. There's some problems. So Puan, who was the?
He cannot join because of the signal. Oh, the head of our. Okay. Okay. Okay, because some of the people they cannot log in because of the signal. So thank you so much for the welcoming speech. And then now we are going to move on to the presentation sections. Okay. 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 Now, Professor Mei-ying would like to say thank you to our Head of STKIP Muhammadiyah Aceh Barat Daya to Mr. Afdal Jihad. Okay, Professor Mei-ying, floor is yours.
I really deeply appreciate the university head to come to give us welcome remarks. Terima kasih. Thank you so much. And actually, I have been to Aceh one time, and I stayed in Aceh for almost 2 weeks, right? I stayed with Miss Puan. At the time, it was during the fasting month, Ramadan. So I was lucky enough. I want to stand up a little bit. This is made in Georgia. Huh, do I look like an Indonesian? Right? So I have a wonderful memory in Aceh, and also it's a great pleasure and very pleasant experience in Aceh because during the Ramadan, I learned so much about Muslim culture and also the very friendly peoples. And certainly I had a little bit cultural shock in the very beginning, but luckily with the help of Miss Puan and her family, I cooked with them. We did a barbecue. We did a lot of things. And even at night, her niece and nephews who were only 8 years old took me to go to the mosque. So that's why we have such connections, relationship, and it was a great memory. And again, I would like to say thank you to terima kasih to people in Aceh and also in Indonesia. I have been there 3 times to do my research, and hopefully through these times connection, maybe as mentioned by Dean of College of Education and the Director of Teachers Education. I also hope maybe in the near future, some of you will be able to study at my university. And I hope we could continue our connection and also communication and to have some professional development in teacher education as well for our own good. Okay, so I just want to add more information for this, and also thank you so much. Okay, terima kasih. Okay, thank you, head of Juhat. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your participation. Thank you. Okay, Puan.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Professor Mei-ying. Tadi barusan Profesor Mei-ying mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada Bapak Afdal Jihad
yang
yang
sudah
sudah
mensupport acara kita ini. Alhamdulillah dengan ada support seperti ini kita bisa juga semakin menjalin kerjasama atau juga intinya
pelaksanaan workshop ini bukan berarti kita ingin memberitahukan bahwa misalnya Taiwan lebih baik atau daripada Indonesia, tidak, tapi kita ingin sama-sama saling berbagi ilmu pengetahuan bagaimana penerapan bahasa Inggris di negara Taiwan dan juga bagaimana penerapan bahasa Inggris itu di Aceh, khususnya di Aceh Barat Daya. Sekali lagi terima kasih Pak Afdal Jihad atas support dan waktunya dan juga untuk teman-teman sekalian. Okay, now we are going to move on to the presentation part. And without further ado, let me introduce our first keynote speakers. Okay, her name is Mei-ying Chen, PhD, and then she works in our Department of Education, National Chai University, and she has been teaching English for many years. Okay, and today She is going to talk about the introduction to socio-cultural theory by Vygotsky. Okay, Professor Mei-ying, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for
Thank you so much for Ms. Puan's introduction. And today, I have a 2 hours presentation. And briefly, I want to talk about socio-cultural theory by Vygotsky. And this was inspired by Ms. Puan and also Ms. Elsa 1 year ago, because we were in a language arts course. And after finish the course, Ms. Puan and Ms. Elsa, somehow we have a discussion, and I think it would be good. We also could have some workshop on Vygotsky theory. Okay, so that's how we start. And today's online will be overview on Vygotsky and to learn about Lev Vygotsky, who he is. And most importantly, we know Piaget is a psychologist in cognitive development, but Vygotsky also, but somehow they are have a different emphasis in terms of development. And then I would like to talk about language learning, and then the instruction realm of proximal development. It's a ZPD, and so from theory to practice, so that's my outline. Okay, so this is a good-looking Russian man, Lev Vygotsky, but unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to develop his theory even more. We could see he was born in 1896 and died in 1934. Only 38 years old. He died of TB. Okay, so, and also afterwards, there was a Cold War. So the theory of Vygotsky didn't get popular in the Western society until late around 90s. But there have been some translations in 1934, and it's about his theory and how cognitive development in child was developed. Okay, so but he particularly emphasized the term is socio-culture, cultural historical, or historical culture, or social-cultural interactive psychology. All those terms are quite similar. They are used interchangeably in different occasions. Okay, so this is just overview. And next one, I would like to move on the very fundamental concept about Vygotsky theory, particularly on language development and language teaching and learning. And we look at this triangle. There's a culture, language, and thought. As mentioned, culture is the fundamental component. And Vygotsky is also a psychologist in constructivism, meaning that later on we are going to learn about scaffolding, ZPD. So here, the language itself has the sign, the word. Okay, so basically here is talk about the importance of environment, and environment including the concrete environment, meaning that how people create the comfortable atmosphere, and certainly there are some concrete tools. So that's why it means here I say surroundings, atmosphere, and also the people interactions. So regarding the three component semiotic interactions are related to cognitive development. So we know in terms of a language, there are phonetics, phonology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics. But all of those are related to social side. This is the perspective of Vygotsky. So, as for the role of teachers, classmates, parents, family members, caretakers, peer, committee members, all of them are important, could be the knowledgeable peers, knowledgeable others for the children. And for us, that could be the students. But it's important. All those, according to Vygotsky, because through all those signs, semiotic signs, and then through interactions, we help the less knowledgeable others to be able to develop cognitively and gain knowledge. And later on, it will become their thought. Okay, so just to have a basic ideas, have what socio-cultural theory could be. Okay, next one. Next slide. Okay, so here is about cognitive development. Again, according to Vygotsky, is culture and social foundation. And these terms might have heavily overlapped. Okay, so they are intertwined. And in some cases, some people might divide culture related to anthropology, social related to sociology, language related to linguistics. But from my own point of view, I would think they are intertwined. So if we want to be a good language teacher, we need to be good as anthropological perspective, sociological perspective, as well as linguistics. And certainly these three fields, they are cross disciplines. Okay, so from the Vygotsky theory, language teaching actually is interdisciplinary, meaning we need to cross border to help our students as a teacher. Okay, so first one, allow me to have a deeper explanation what culture could be. First of all, culture is a specific mediums. Okay, this one is through our everyday activities. It could be from artifacts, from conversation, from the words, from various activities. Could be religious activities, could be just conversations. Okay, so second one is very importantly, according to Vygotsky, is a philogenist. Okay, so when we talk about this number one, psychological development, it could be ontogenesis of individual, but for Vygotsky, it's the philogenesis, meaning it could be practiced in institutions and a lot of symbols around us. And the word philogenesis, meaning is the whole human species. So if human species, we would like to have further development, then interactions, socio-cultural interactions is necessary. Number three of the meaning is we pass out across generations through social and experiential means in ontogenesis throughout the life course. So meaning there is a saying says, learning up to you are old. When you're young, you learn. When you're old, you still learn. No matter what age you are in, you learn it. So that's of Vygotsky development, idea of development. So it's ontogenesis, meaning that's how it begins, how it starts. And this one, so Vygotsky theory, a lot of people, when they see socio-culture, they would think, oh, it only talk about phylogenesis, only talking about group, only talk about collective growth. Actually, it's both, because we know psychologists focus on individual development. Yet, Vygotsky, in 1926, start to publish a lot of works on socio-cultural theory, and he emphasized development is ontogenesis as well as phylogenesis. Okay, so the last one, the meaning of, I just mentioned, some people might use historical culture or historical socio-culture, but history here doesn't mean the whole human history, but it belongs to individual phenomena, meaning our experience, as here it says. Experiential means. So as a teacher, from the perspective of Vygotsky, we culminate the experience. We help our students to culminate their experience. And as a teacher, we have to know how to help our students to culminate their experience, good experience in terms of English learning. Okay. So that's the meaning of history. And let's look at these pictures. This actually was a shot. We took these pictures yesterday. I deeply appreciate Miss Puan bought the cake for me. Okay, birthday cake. Okay, so why we want to, because yesterday we are doing a lot of testing. We have been working on this for almost a month, almost me to 3 days a week, in order to have a wonderful workshop. Okay, so certainly I bother you all a little bit. I'm so sorry, and also appreciate your effort. Why? Look at this, the first picture. We saw the cake. When we see the cake, what's the connection? According to socio-cultural, historical, or interactive model, we will guess someone might have a birthday. So it's a sign. It's, according to semiotics, it's a sign. We learn the meaning. But again, we as a human beings, we have to acquire through interaction, according to Vygotsky theory. And who teaches us? Who teaches us the meanings of the sign of a burst of a cake? Through our parents, peers, friends, teachers, committee members, family members, those who know the meanings of cake. Honestly, I was born in 1962 or 3. Okay, so I didn't really have any birthday party until I was 40 years old. So I didn't even know there was a birthday cake, because all through my history, my personal history, through my life course, up to 20 years old, I didn't have any birthday cake, and I didn't buy any either, because I have no idea what it means. Okay, so, but now I know. And certainly Miss Puan learned very well. So we have a good time together. And these are our students too. And this is our team, we work together. But also, one thing, let's look at Miss Puan. See, without mask on. But Miss Puan is the only one wearing hijab. Okay, so when I was in 2012, right? Okay, when I arrived in RJ airport, I saw all the ladies have their hijab on, even though I already met some Muslim friends, but I didn't know. Almost everywhere in RJ, and this is through acquiring. I didn't use the term learn because we are immersed in the culture. So from Vygotsky's language development, we could divide into acquire and learn. When we are at home, we learn it, but maybe we should use the term acquire. It's better because it's immersion. However, at school, we learn it because through specific instructional method. Okay, next one. Here is mosque, right? This one is in Taipei. When I lived in Taipei for 10 years, I went there, but honestly, I didn't really pay so much attention to it because I didn't know so much about Islam. But this is that one in Banda Aceh. And I went there, and another Puan introduced, and her family member relatives introduced it to me. So I learned it. Oh, mosque has significant meanings. So this is also, we just mentioned, this is a cultural fact, cultural artifact, cultural architectures. Okay, next one, next slide. This is in a term, socialization. So through we adapt and we practice, we understand, then we are already in the process of socialization. Everybody learn about socialization. But in terms of Vygotsky's theory, applying to English language teaching, we are going to use mutual help and create a very pleasant atmosphere in our classroom, among our students, among teachers. We were going, socialization here have extensive meanings. We are going to learn from each other. We also help each other. Okay, 下一张，议题下一张。Okay, so that's what it says now. But all of those is based on mental process. And Vygotsky used the term mediation. This is a critical terms in sociocultural theory. Okay, so here we already know it needs to go through a process. Okay, 现在是不是要下课 ？10 minutes break. Okay, Puan maybe. Okay, how about this? Because 还没吗？ Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, let's continue. I messed up. Okay, so it's mental health, mental process. Social and historical in origin is mediation, meaning we need to go through the process of thinking, of concept formation. And this is great details. So here is when we have the mediation, meaning we are conscious, we are in the state of human consciousness. And this one will be achieved by practicing different kinds of activities and different kinds of culture. So Another keyword related to mediation is human conscious, meaning it go through in our brain, we think, but there is different stages. For example, they will go to the side, the hip, and then have the collections, and they also have the pseudo and the pseudo concept. So it's a step by step. And from sociocultural theory, we also emphasize external interactions. But again, I want to say Vygotsky also emphasized internal too, because as we say, process, right? It's an auto thinking. When it's related to mental process, it's also internal. But for Vygotsky, I think it is a new direction, a new inspiration in psychology and as well as teaching. We concern about external because Piaget emphasized internal very much, and everybody know the influences of Piaget's view. However, Vygotsky tried to look at development from external interaction too. So as mentioned, there is different sides of semiotic functions, and those affect our development. And very importantly, from Vygotsky theory, he wants to achieve higher level of psychological function, and also hopefully the children will have a habit to be initiated by themselves. So that's the very critical goal of Vygotsky's theory. Now let's look at the film clips. Okay, 刚刚的 YouTube. Let's look at one YouTube about Vygotsky theory. 你可以直接点吗？好，可以。可以把它放大一点，有没有可能？
Vygotsky's theory of social development argues that community and language play a central part in learning, while Jean Piaget concluded that children's cognitive development happens in stages. Vygotsky rejected his ideas and believed that children develop independently of specific stages as the result of social interactions. Vygotsky claimed that we are born with 4 elementary mental functions: attention, sensation, perception, and memory. It is our social and cultural environment that allows us to use these elementary skills to develop and finally gain higher mental functions. This development ideally happens in the zone of proximal development. First, there is what we can do on our own. Then, there is the zone of proximal development, which represents what we can do with the help of an adult, a friend, technology, or what Vygotsky called the more knowledgeable other. Last, there is what's beyond our reach. To illustrate this, let us think of twins who were raised in a community in which boys are expected to learn and succeed, while girls are only expected to be pretty. At the age of 10 months, both have the ability to crawl and are in the zone of proximal development for learning how to stand on their feet. The more knowledgeable other, in this case the father, provides the boy with opportunities to practice in a playroom that he has equipped with scaffolding and other objects. The boy is encouraged to explore the equipment, and eventually he uses it to pull himself up. A few hours later, he's cruising along the structures, and a few days later, he's standing on his feet. The girl also has the potential to stand, but does not receive any support in learning the skill. When we compare the two, we see that while the girl is still trying to get up, the boy has moved into a new zone. He knows how to balance while standing, and now has the potential to learn how to walk. Both will eventually learn how to walk, but according to Vygotsky, the boy will be more skilled. The same principles apply to all learning and the development of higher cognitive functions. And only those learning with the assistance of a capable mentor can reach the full potential of their ability. Vygotsky, therefore, believed that inside the zone of proximal development, learning can precede development, which means that a child is able to learn skills that go beyond their natural maturity. He also established an explicit connection between speech and mental concepts, arguing that inner speech develops from external speech via a gradual process of internalization. This means that thought itself develops as a result of conversation. Therefore, younger children who don't finish this process can only think out loud. Once the process is complete, inner speech and spoken language become independent. Lev Vygotsky died of tuberculosis in 1934 at the age of 37. Despite his young age, he became one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. He left the following advice for educators. By giving students practice in talking with others, we give them frames for thinking on their own. What do you think? Can a child learn anything regardless of any developmental prerequisites? And do we learn only through social and cultural contexts? And if so, do you think it is appropriate for a more knowledgeable other to determine what a child should learn next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Is it okay? Okay, before Professor Mei is going to continue to explain about the topic for today's workshop, I would like to invite Pak Sukri, Mr. Sukri Adani, because before maybe he got trouble to connect to our link. So, Mr. Sukri Adani, we would like to invite you to give a brief opening speech, and floor is yours, Pak Sukri Adani. Silakan Pak Sukri Adani.
Thank you very much, Miss Puan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear your voice, Pak.
I'm really sorry from the bottom of my heart because I got trouble with the connection and also the trouble to sign in. Actually, I initially wanted to sign in through my laptop, but then it keep asking to update the Microsoft Teams application. I'm really sorry about that. I also would like to extend my greatest honor to the professor. I'm sorry, my my Chinese or Mandarin is not good, so I cannot. I'm afraid I cannot say your name properly. So thank you very much for having us as the participants. As you know that this GZPD, Zone Proximal Development, is like an offspring of the philosophical development in education. As you also briefly explained that this is the contradiction of the traditional learning approach. In the traditional way, it's always focused on the internalization of process. But in this approach, which was led by Vygotsky, it also includes the others, knowledgeable others, to help the learners to move out from their zones of learning. So this is very interesting, especially at school, in which that in Indonesia also, especially in our area, we are encouraging teachers to always involve the students in every stage of learning. But then again, the question is, how can we detect the knowledgeable others that will help every specific students to move outside of their zones? So I hope that we can learn from that, we can discuss, we can share the practice between these countries. And I'm also positive about this because our culture are not too different. We are Asian after all, so we share some philosophical learning about this. And I would like also to express my gratitude to Pak Afdal. Terima kasih banyak Pak Afdal sudah join. Mohon maaf tadi saya terlambat. And also enjoy the learning. This is a very rare opportunity in this COVID-19 era. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for Mr. Sukri Adani. Now I would like to invite again Professor Mei-ying. Okay, Professor Mei-ying, floor is yours.
Okay, so now we go back to our sharing. They just kind of curious. Any questions? Any comments so far? It's okay because in my teaching, students could raise any questions or provide any comments, input anytime. Any issues you would like to raise right now? Even though we will have a group discussion later, but it might be okay. Okay. Any issues? No. Okay. If not, then let's continue to next slide. Okay. So now we move on to the topic on language learning. Okay, so here is very important that for semiotics perspective, as mentioned, there is a sign, there is a symbol, and then we go through the mediation, and then to the word, the meanings. So according to Vygotsky, the word actually also including concept. So it go through the heap, collections, chain complex, and then pseudo concept, and then to concept. So there is some process. And again, it's very particularly important that those signs will give meanings under different cultures. And also the meanings might provide to knowledgeable others. However, as mentioned, it needs to go through mediations and usually go to word that has meaning, even though it's just a word. But usually we don't perceive word have a complete meanings. But for children or for foreign language learners, word could have complete meanings, could have complete concept. And I think this is very critical from the perspective of native language or native speaker or foreign language learners. So there's some difference in terms of the meanings behind the metaphor behind word. And from semiotics perspective, that the verbal thinking and speech, they are well connected, because verbal thinking is through the mental process. Doing through our complex, our pseudo concept, and then move on to speech. Your giant, ask them to turn off. Puan, 不用讲。Okay, so OK, 我讲就好。Is anyone Safina, it's okay for you to turn off the microphone? It's okay. It's okay.
Hello.
No. Oh, you have questions?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. Then if so,
Just
can you turn
listening.
off the microphone? Because it's not a little. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, 那我讲就好。So the word meaning could be considered a thought, or it's one at a time. And from the perspective of Vygotsky, it's a unit of verbal thinking. So from the research analysis, we will use word to analyze, to figure out what is the meaning, what is the thought of the child. Okay, next one. Next slide. Okay, look at here. I learned it from Miss Puan and also some Indonesian students. Dogs somehow are not very popular in Muslim communities. It doesn't mean Muslims don't like dogs, because if you turn off the microphone, this is noisy here. Okay,
Hilda, Hilda Maivera, tolong mikrofonnya dimatikan dulu, Hilda. Hilda, mikrofonnya tolong dimatiin, Hilda, karena ganggu. Oke, makasih.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the sign, here is the sign. Okay, so let's look at the YouTube a film first. 那个 sisters kiss dogs.
Oh yeah, he'll try and get your hairline.
Hi.
We should sit beside each other.
Don't push on it, what's he gonna do?
Oh my ear.
Eat your earring.
Kisses. My eye.
Oh, your makeup.
Oh, thank you. Good boy. Oh. Thank you. Oh wow.
Microphone of the professor is turned off, Puan. Oh, sorry, Puan. We cannot hear the voice because the Microsoft of the professor is off. Unmute.
you so much. It's my problem. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so okay, allow me to say again that we just watched the film, right? And it's about a dog kissing the adult, okay, or the host. But here, so we have a different understandings about this slide. Okay, so for myself, when I look at these pictures, I'm happy. Yet, if it become a real animals, I'm afraid because my experience, bad experience, even though my family had a dog during my childhood, but I was beaten. I was beat by neighbor's dog. Okay, so I'm afraid of dog because they might bite people, not because of their saliva. And it's the same case in Taiwan, most cases. But some of my friends, they really love dogs. They would call their dogs as a son, as daughters. So they spend money on it. So when we use dog, this picture, as a tool in our language teaching, we might also need to consider what's the socio-cultural influence on it. Is it appropriate or maybe not? And we know in the United States, many people, they spend a lot of money on their dogs. And it's getting true in Taiwan. And I would like to this also I learned from Miss Puan and other Indonesian students in Bahasa Indonesia. Anjing meaning dogs. So, but interestingly, phonetically, in Taiwan, when we say in Chinese, when we say anjing, meaning be quiet. So in the classroom, teachers might say anjing very often in Taiwanese classroom, but they just want to have the students to be quiet. But if it is in Indonesian classroom, maybe you wouldn't say anjing so often. So when I say semiotic or the sign, usually it's an object, but it's a phonetic, morphologically connected to. Okay, so according to socio-cultural theory, the word, so later on, the word dog has a certain kind of meanings, and Vygotsky concerned the word is a microcosm of consciousness, and consciousness is related to organism, meaning that human beings have, or maybe animals have. And this is a connect to cosmos. So word is perceived as microcosm of human consciousness. So word has the best foundation, best meanings of a human consciousness. Okay, next one. And when we talk about mediation, that Vygotsky also have the idea is we give birth to thought and also the formation of thought. And it is internal word, verbal thinking. However, the meanings is from external interactions. And then later on come to the words themselves. So language and thought, they are connected. Okay, so we review a little bit. What's the intersections, intertwined features of culture, language, and thought? So as we say, science, mediation, thinking, speech, then it affects the learning and the thought. And all of those connect to culture. Okay, next one. Next slide. Okay, look at here again. This is one object, mask, and then also shield. This is July 16th. I went to a junior high school here to have the shot of AZ vaccine. Okay, and I would like to say, when I look at this one, it looks so awful. Okay, this is me. Okay, it might look a little bit funny. Okay, and this is also could function as a sign to tell what it might means. For example, we could see that I wear sunglasses. I wear the hat, the cap. I wear the sheet. I wear mask. And it's under the condition of COVID-19. And it was very serious in Taiwan in July. So I was informed by my family members, by doctors, I need to wear long sleeves. I need to wear cap, shirts, sunglasses, mask to protect myself. And when I think about this, I like to use to my English language teaching classroom. This is Taiwanese, look at here. Everybody have the habit right now. It's quite natural. When we go out under COVID-19, even up to now, we still wear mask. I took it off because I need to speak right now. And it has the important meanings because if we don't wear it, we'll get penalty. But also it has become an idea, a concept, a thought that we are going to wear the mask to protect ourselves and protect others. So even the mask right now in Taiwan, it connects to safety, connect to life, connect to society, connect to personal property, connect to protection others. Okay, next one. Okay, here is my temple. Okay, there's two pictures. Look at here. It is a small statue. It's Maitreya Buddha, and it has a big belly. And in my religion, it functions something similar to the God, but not exactly, but is somehow guide the disciples to be in the heaven. And this is our ritual, okay? So in our daily life, we practice. Like I know today, from 12 to 2 o'clock, you have a very important worship, okay, to God, particularly on Friday. And this also could integrate with our language teaching because it is our daily life. And from Vygotsky perspective, these terms has become, for example, worship, mosque, has become, we call it not spontaneous concept, meaning we use it every day. So Vygotsky doesn't use the term not spontaneous. He used the term everyday terminology, everyday concept. However, everyday concept need to learn, need to go through the scientific concept. Scientific is through interaction, step by step, go through mediation, and very importantly, it will connect to the thought, and we know what behavior we have to learn. So from the spontaneously scientific concept, then we practice to every day, and it's not spontaneous concept. However, when we use it every day in our daily life, in our daily culture, then it will accumulate as the foundation for our scientific concept. And this will become the syntax, the grammar, or the meanings for our English language teaching and learning. Okay, next one. Okay, now we want to move on to language, verbal thinking. And there, from word meanings, then children, or language learner if they are junior high school students, if they are senior high school students, or if they are adults. Through all the methods I mentioned above, okay, or Vygotsky encouraged those transactions, okay, so it will become private speech. Okay, let's watch a short film. Okay.
A lot of them are blue. So color them in blue. So color the blue ones in blue.
呀，每次都要点那个方法，智
This
慧
one's
主题。
blue. So color this one in blue.
有没有？哦，这次没有。哦，他没有，哎，没关系。OK， good， 可以了。
This one's also blue.
好，回去那个 PPT。Okay, here we have listened to the private speech, and everyone has the time of a private speech. But in order to reach the level of a private speech, we need to know the meaning of the sign. Through mediation, we need to know the meaning of the word, and later on construct sentence or even paragraph. So private speech somehow is quite similar to egocentric speech by Piaget. But here, private speech from Vygotsky's perspective is also a process of mental thinking. Because when the students or the children, they talk to each other, even for adult, actually it's a way for them doing mediation, for them to think or to think about if there's any concept, any complex they need to learn about. So it functions as a way of internal conversation within the individual. Okay, so now let's take a look at inner speech. So from private speech, then individual will move on to the stage of inner speech.
Okay, today I'm going to highlight some ideas, some terms associated with Vygotskian socio-cultural. Okay, and lastly, we have inner speech. Inner speech is where you are vocally talking to yourself. So you're talking to yourself, but you're not talking to yourself out loud. In some respects, it is different from thinking, because thinking happens in many different situations, where inner speech is a sort of conversation that you're having with yourself. There's actual speech going on in your mind. And it's a self-regulated tool. It represents that self-awareness is happening. Unfortunately, it can only be studied and observed indirectly. And an example from the text explained how it can be beneficial in regaining effective control. In the situation, the girl had not done well on an assignment. She went blank during the test or the assignment. Then later on her way home, she rehearsed it through inner speech and was able to recall everything. And this regained her sense of confidence towards the language. So inner speech can be closely connected with our emotions and our feelings. I have one example from my own language learning.
Hold on, continue. 因为他会讲到中文。Continue, sorry.
Of inner speech, and that is there is a TV show here in China similar to Lizzie McGuire, where the main actress's thoughts are shared with the audience. They show you what she's thinking in addition to the social speech that she's having with others. So I was watching a TV show like that here in China, and it was at a time where I was living in a new city. I didn't yet have any Chinese friends in that city, so I wasn't having much Mandarin conversation.
Okay.
But I noticed after watching.
Okay. Okay. So, as mentioned, the inner speech will have so from the word has meanings sign, they have become a semantic functions, especially for the inner speech that is connected to the emotion, and also it is murmured, usually not so loud, but it's in the way, on the way to forming the thought. So that's why, look at this term. So that's why language and thought, they are connected. And let's look at this word, reincarnation. Okay, to my understanding, for Christians, for Muslims, that people don't believe in reincarnation. However, in Taiwan, most people probably don't have a specific religion. It's a mixture of Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism. And this term has been used all the time in Taiwan. So it's very important. You could see when some people, they feel so depressed in the stage of inner speech. When they have some mental problems, they also have some emotion, as mentioned, and they learn from the culture. They will refer to reincarnation. They might say, oh, I did something wrong in my past life. So that's why this life, actually, I come to the earth, come to the life in order to return the debt. I have been in debt all the time. So I suffer right now. It's okay because I did something wrong. So next life, I will be okay. If I don't return all debts, I might go to hell. Okay. So the idea of what heaven could be, paradise could be, or the hell might be very different from Christianity or Muslims, Islamic. And for this word, go through all the process, mental process, learning process, then we have a very clear idea. Reincarnation could be. This also affects our behavior. So for example, in Taiwan might say that above 3 inches, 3 feet above your head, there is God. God watch you, what you are doing. Somehow this idea similar to Islam or Christianity. However, we believe we will have Next slide. Okay, so all the different stages that we might have different interpretations. And also importantly, as a language teacher, we need to concern about the ethnic background, linguistic background, social background of the language learners. Okay, next one. Next slide. Okay, so now we move on to our group discussion. So we are going to have about 15 minutes for discussion. So if you are in odd number, for example, group 1, group 3, group 5, group 7, then you are going to discuss the first question. You are in even group, meaning number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then you discuss question 2. Okay, so we are going to help you to go to your own meeting room. Okay, 好，现在把它们开启。
Oke, jadi kan kita ada 2 pertanyaan, ada question first yang what aspect sama pertanyaan kedua. Nanti yang grup ganjil 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 silakan discuss yang pertanyaan nomor 1. Sebentar lagi kita akan assign teman-teman ke grup masing-masing. Terus nanti yang question kedua itu nanti teman-teman akan bahasnya fokus sama yang question nomor 2 aja. Misalnya kalau teman-teman di grup kedua 4, 6, 8. Oke, kita akan mulai ya untuk assign the grupnya. Jadi bisa dilihat pertanyaannya untuk yang grup ganjil. What aspect of Vygotsky socio-cultural theory inspire you? How will you apply the ideas to your teaching? And the second question is about how are the Indonesian culture aspect which affect your English language teaching or learning? Okay.
Di belakang banyak.
Resource. Bukan guru saya dia bilang enggak, tapi dia itu dia. Nah. What is your background of study before your educational background before your educational major?
Oh, okay.
Okay, hi everyone. Now we are back.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Okay, so is everyone back already? Back to the lobby? Okay, thank you. If possible, have your camera on so we could see each other, if fine with you. Okay, now it's the time for sharing your thoughts, the result of your group discussion. Any volunteer?
Yes, I can volunteer.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we,
Go ahead.
even though we have a very limited time for discussion, but I think I can answer, I can conclude to answer the two questions. The first one, which part is the most interesting for you? Yeah, for me, personally, having knowledgeable others in improving our students' learning is the most interesting part for me. because in this case we involve the students in the learning process, and how does it relevant to Indonesian context. In Indonesia, since I think 10 years ago, the government are still encouraging the teachers to use cooperative learning at school. And I think this theory, particularly involving the knowledgeable others, really fitting in into the policy that the government proposed. And in Indonesia, if the government say one, the teacher should follow. So I think this approach, ZPD, has a very good prospect in Indonesia because it's really fitting in the government policy. That's from me.
Okay, thank you, Group 1. So may I have anybody from Group 2 to say something? Anybody from Group, or any volunteer?
They're still shy.
Okay. Anybody from Group 2? Anyone? Or I talked to Group 6, right? Is Zara or something? I just talked to you. Yes. Yes, Raya. Do you want to say something? And even though you didn't get a chance to discuss with your friends, but how about what your reflection on it? You want to say something just from your individual perspective? Microphone? Zazia, you need to have your microphone on. Okay, go on.
Right. Good morning, Professor and everyone.
Yes.
I'm not really friendly to talk English. Can I mix or use Bahasa?
Yes, sure. Yeah, Bahasa Indonesia mixed with the English, Chinese, that's okay. We have a Miss Puan to help out. Feel easy. Okay, sorry. Yeah, similar to, I also have the problems very often. Okay, go ahead.
I prefer.
Yeah, take a deep breath. Cantik. Yeah.
Again, question number 2. What Indonesian culture can impact in learning and teaching English? In my
Bahasa Indonesia.
In my experience, ketika saya menjadi relawan mengajar 1 tahun yang lalu, saya mengalami sesuatu di dalam kelas, seperti misalnya anak-anak yang masih deep dalam kesadaran untuk belajar bahasa Inggris, apalagi kan bahasa Inggris adalah bahasa luar, dan mereka saya mengajar saat itu di wilayah yang sedikit terpencil dari kota. Jadi mereka punya kebiasaan yang dimana mereka tidak terlalu punya kesadaran untuk belajar, apalagi mereka tidak terlalu tertarik begitu dengan bahasa Inggris. Nah, saya sedikit kesulitan untuk mengajar. Saya di sini yang mempengaruhi budaya Indonesia mungkin kurang adanya kesadaran dalam belajar. Dan saya juga masih memiliki sedikit pengalaman untuk mengajar.
Okay, thank you.
Ya, dan saya
Makasih.
Okay, thank you so
okay,
much.
thank you so much.
Okay, terima kasih Razia for sharing your thoughts about that. Because Razia had an experience to teach as a volunteer teacher in the remote area, and she thought that at the time one of the Indonesian culture effect that made her a little bit difficult to teach English because of the students' low of the self-awareness. And maybe they have no idea that if English is an important language that the student needs to learn for their future. Okay, thank you once again. Thank you, Razia.
Okay, thank you. So,
Thank you, Professor.
yeah, thank you. So, how about this? Let's take a short break. Up
Okay.
to 10:20. It's okay.
No, only 10.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to have a break for 10 minutes. So for all the participants, if you think that your eyes a little bit tired, yeah, you can take a look for something so refresh or fresh, like maybe the green things outside of your room. Oke, sekarang kita akan bakal ada 10 menit break ya. Jadi nanti setelah itu kita akan masuk kembali. Menurut saya sih baiknya nggak usah keluar dari grup, takutnya nanti sinyalnya susah. Jadi bisa di-unmute aja mikrofonnya dulu ataupun di turn off the videonya dulu nggak apa-apa. Baru nanti setelah 10 minutes later we are going to have another speech.
Tell them what time exactly to come.
Now it's already 10.
Oke, Ibu Rama Setia, maaf, Ibu raise your hand, ada pertanyaan, Ibu? Ibu, itunya mikrofonnya dihidupin dulu, kita nggak kedengeran. Mikrofonnya lupa.
Ibu?
Oke, maaf.
Maaf Bu, mungkin ini agak menyimpang dari permasalahan yang disampaikan tadi, tapi saya punya masalah dalam kesulitan belajar Bu. Terutama dengan materi problem solving Bu, dengan metode problem solving. Jadi problem solving itu agak sukar bagi saya Bu di sekolah.
Oke.
Mungkin Ibu ada bahan atau materi lainnya yang bisa diberikan ke kami ya Bu ya. Cuma itu.
Oh, Oke, berarti Puan catat dulu sebagai catatan, ntar Puan bisa kasih tahu sama profesornya Bu ya. Oke. Ada lagi Ibu Rama?
Cuma yang kedua tentang kesulitan kami karena sekolahnya daerah pesisir, agak bagaimana kita bisa menumbuhkan peserta didik kita untuk bisa semangat untuk belajar bahasa Inggris, itu aja Bu.
Oke. Berarti
Ya,
yang
makasih.
pertama, yang pertama itu berarti kalau misalnya nanti ada bahan yang bisa kita share tentang problem solving di kelas, nanti kita share. Terus yang kedua kayak misalnya some tips kayak how to motivate our students, ya kan?
Ya, oke.
Oke, silakan istirahat dulu. Kita masih ada waktu. Bentar, aduh, karena ini laptopnya kan jamnya Taiwan, kok laptop Puan jam Indonesia. Oke, silakan. Oke, mungkin sekitaran 6 menit lagi. Oke, see you soon. Hilda, apa kabar? Mikrofonnya dihidupin, mikrofonnya dihidupin.
Oke, udah.
So far, what do you think? So far, so good, or do you have some problems?
No, inshallah, alhamdulillah.
Okay. Okay, take a break bentar deh ya. Okay.
Take a break dulu ya. Oke, siap.
Apa kita break? Di mana? Mana kantinnya?
Halo semua, siapa yang ada di sini nih?
Ya, Sir.
Siapa ini?
Ulpa, Sir, Ulpa.
Ulpa. Daripada kita menyanyiakan jaringan, mending kita berbicara 1, 2, 3 gitu kan?
Iya.
Ayo, siapa yang mau konsul?
Senin boleh, Pak? Ya Allah, konsul. Konsulnya itu kan.
Bu Ilda mau konsul juga. Jadi mahasiswa ini masuk aja, bicara nggak mau dia. Gimana ini ya?
Gala nggak mau.
Bukan nggak mau, Sir. Nggak terlalu ngerti.
Ya, tapi jurusan bahasa Inggris. Udah jurusan bahasa Inggris, mau sidang lagi, nggak bisa bicara bahasa Inggris. Aduh, apa ini?
Apa jawabannya?
Ayo coba diskusi, kalian suka bagian yang mana ini dari teori yang diajarkan profesor tadi? Kan banyak itu. Ada microcosm, ada mediation, ya kan? Ada terus knowledgeable others. Banyak itu istilah-istilahnya. Ada ZPD sendiri, zone proximal development, ya kan? Ayo sekalian kita ini bagi-bagi kuliah ini.
Halo. Halo.
Ibu Saflina di mana ini, Bu?
Saya di SMA Tunas Bangsa. SMA Tunas Bangsa.
Halo, ya.
Ya.
Iya, halo.
Halo, ini saya mau menyampaikan sesuatu, ini boleh ya Pak ya?
Oh iya. Menurut Ibu, mana yang menarik Ibu?
Sebentar, saya kan masuknya udah telat tadi, karena jaringan susah sekali di sekolah. Susah sekali. Nah, jadi waktu saya masuk itu sudah sekitar jam 9 baru bisa connect Bapak. Nah, jam 9, jadi itu pun suara tutornya itu putus begitu. Jadi saya ini masalah apa yang disampaikan. Jadi saya nggak ngerti betul. Nah, jadi begini Pak ya, kalau boleh seandainya ada materinya itu boleh nggak di-share ke kita, setidaknya walaupun kita nggak bisa nanya di acara Zoom, setidaknya kan kita dapatkan ilmunya begitu Pak. Bisa nggak ya? Karena jaringan susah Bu.
Nanti kita minta sama Bu Puan.
Oh ya kan? Gitu Pak ya?
Bisa itu,
susah sekali Pak.
Saya rasa pasti.
Iya, saya nggak ngerti ini bicara apa ini Bu dosen.
Karena memang katanya belakangan ini di negara Susoh itu towernya rusak.
Pantas, yang benar aja, pantas aja udah seminggu lebih kami nggak konek-konek.
Towernya rusak.
Nah, buka WA saja susah koneknya Bapak. Ini saya di sekolah, aduh. Jadi mohon maaf lah, saya ini cuma melongo saja. Suara putus, dengar putus lagi.
Nanti bukan kita minta inilah Bu Puan untuk membuat kesimpulan, ya kan? Karena kan udah putus-putus bahasa Inggris pula ya.
Itulah, udah putus-putus bahasa Inggris pula. Jadi aduh apa ini ya? Ya itu keluhan saya itu Pak.
Ya, nanti...
Saya tetap mau ikut juga ya, walaupun nanti nggak tahu itu bicaranya apa karena putus-putus. Ya pokoknya saya ikut aja lah dulu acaranya. Demikian Pak.
Ya, kita minta nanti Miss Puan untuk buat kesimpulan lah setiap akhir presentasi kan. Buat kesimpulan sedikit dalam bahasa Indonesia. Jangan bahasa Aceh, saya nggak ngerti.
Oke, kita kembali lagi. Welcome back to our workshop. Can you listen to my voice well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for all of the participants. Now we are going to invite our second speaker, teacher Tsung-pin Chen, PhD. He is going to talk about the provisional identity in the senior high school classroom. Okay, teacher Tsung-pin Chen, floor is yours.
Yes, so can everybody hear me clearly?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay,
yes, clear.
Yes. So let's get to the point immediately. My topic focuses on the professional identity of senior high school pre-service teacher, and I will play the PowerPoint. Okay. So can you see the PowerPoint here?
Not yet.
No PowerPoint.
No PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute.
No PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, excuse me. 空斌老师听得到吗？
可以。
那个 PPT 我们目前这边没有看到哦。
我已经打开了，但是我分享柜上面好像看不到。 我
不然
看一下，
聪斌老师，我们这边帮您用 PPT 好了，你来讲就好了，好不好？
哦，好啊好啊，你放看看，嘿。
好，宇轩。OK。
Okay, I can see the PowerPoint.
So you can see the PowerPoint now, right? Okay.
Another question，聪斌老师
Yes.
你可以露脸吗？
露脸，哎，
是不是桌机没有那个？
好像，哎，我麦克风，我摄影机有开呢。
好吧，我们目前这边是没有看到
没有
那个
看到呀。
老师的脸，没关系。好，没关系，如果不行，那老师就尽量大声一点。对，好，谢谢老师。好，可以开始了。
Okay, please let's look at the next page. Look at my presentation outline. Next slide, please. Okay, first I will focus on the Vygotskian tradition. And the second one is the most important part of my presentation. It's the case analysis based on my personal experience. And the third one are some suggestions for pre-service EFL teachers. And the last one, I will show some questions for group discussion. Okay, that's all about my presentation. Let's move on to the first part. Next one. The Vygotskian tradition. I think Professor Chen will talk a lot about that, but I will still emphasize a few of the essences here. Vygotskian focused on the cultural historical aspect of human action. So speech is some kind of form of action. So everyone's activity was motivated by cultural historical development. And based on this assumption, our identity formation is regarded as an individual or a social phenomenon. So there is a single and unified identity as far as professional identity is concerned. Okay, next one. Next one, thank you. So the Vygotskian tradition, according to the basic principles, I will explore this tradition from three categories. The first one is the so-called ideal forms. The second one is the public standard versus personal motives. The third one is about the meaning in teaching, of course, teaching English. And the meaning in teaching is divided into macro level and micro level. One is large scale, and the other is more individual oriented. Okay, next one. So the ideal form, the concept of ZPD assumes there are ideal forms which can direct teachers' professional identity. So when you, as an EFL teacher, each of us should bear some ideal forms, the ideal image, the ideal self of what is a competent, what is an ideal EFL teacher. So this is the so-called ideal form. And so there are two types of professional developments that we have to consider very seriously. One is about competent language teacher, which is the role of a teacher. It's about teaching skill. And the other is about native-like proficiency, which is the language ability. I come up with these two different aspects because my pre-service teachers, they they show different emphasis in each of them, and I will talk about that later. Okay, next one. The second category, public standards versus personal motives. So when we are pursuing ideal professional identity, novice or beginning EFL teachers, they have to integrate the publicly valid forms of teaching and the personal motivations. We usually see the tension between the two, public standards on the one hand and personal motives on the other. So an EFL teacher should make sense of the public standards, and the public standards are usually from social cultural context, and the personal motivations usually arise from your educational or your upbringing. So there are often tensions between the two, but we need to find a balance between the two to be more confident or professional. Okay, next one. The third one is also the most concrete, most significant one, which is the meaning in EFL teaching. In macro level, meanings arise from social functions, policy frames, and administrative regulations for language and language teaching. So they are usually embedded in our educational context, the social functions. What is the main purpose of English teaching? And what about the policy? What is the policy that regulates our English teaching program? And the administrative regulations mainly from our school authorities. And in terms of micro level, meanings are created in classroom, in mentorship, and collegial interaction, and it focuses on individual participation. So this is usually from the personal perspective. It starts from the EFL teachers themselves. So this is the micro level of making meaning about the teaching job. Okay, this is the basic principles about Vygotskian tradition. And the second part, next page. Case analysis. I have taught English for over 10 years in both junior and senior high schools. And the case analysis is taken from my teaching journal because I have the habit of keeping teaching journal in my teaching career. And it also includes my personal reflection about my own teaching practice. The two pre-service EFL teachers in my teaching career are Eric and Hannah. And this is the basic information about the two pre-service EFL teachers, as you can see from the table here. In terms of their age, in terms of their gender, and their educational background. When Eric was a pre-service teacher, he already had a master's degree at a general college. And Hannah is an undergraduate from a teacher's college. Their internship type is different. I was responsible for Eric's English teaching, and I was responsible for Hannah's classroom management. In other words, I taught Eric English teaching, and I taught Hannah classroom management. But sometimes they are interchangeable. Sometimes I also give instructions to different aspects, to the different things anything I know about the teaching career, I share with them. And their personality traits, Eric was easygoing, positive, and quite mature. And Hannah was communicative, friendly, and sincere. Both of them were easy to get along with. They were doing pretty well in their internship. Okay, first let's focus on Eric. Next page. Next, yes. So, yes, Eric, when talking about the ideal form of an EFL teacher is native-like language proficiency. He was a role model for students because his auto oral influence was perfect. So he demonstrated his oral fluency, his oral skill to his students very often. But students was also impressed by his pronunciation. His pronunciation is very native-like. Okay, so this is the ideal form for Eric. He was eager to have the native-like language proficiency. Okay, next page. But in terms of the public standards, so when I was discussing the public standards with Eric, he said the public standards for EFL teachers have gone through noticeable change in the past decades, because in the past, reserve teachers, they could serve as substitute teacher, and they got fully paid. They can earn their own income. They had salary. But now, reserve teachers, they are more like student teachers. They have to pay tuition fees for their credits. So they are more like students nowadays. And Eric didn't like the change in such public standards because he thought it's unfair for the younger generations. The older generations, they could earn a living by being a pre-service teacher, but now they cannot do so. Okay, next one. In terms of personal motivations, Eric was actually not certain about his future career. In his internship, he was not enthusiastic about getting the teaching job at school. So after finishing the internship, Eric didn't get the teacher's qualification test and didn't acquire a teacher's certificate. I think I feel quite sorry for him about his final decision. Okay, next page. And about the meaning in teaching, the social value. Eric targeted at improving students' language proficiency, so he proved his teaching efficacy in raising students' grades. And his personal goal, Eric wanted to teach English as part of his career, that's for sure. But there are too many requirements, too many regulations, which were not so fair for Eric. So English teaching is meaningful. He decided to go to cram school. In cram school, Eric could also teach English as part of his career, but the public standards kept him from staying in formal educational context. He couldn't stay at school because there were many regulations, there were many rules to follow. So he didn't have teacher's certificate and he didn't attend teacher's recruitment test. So finally, he went to cram school. In cram school, he could still teach English. He could still do the job that he wanted to do. So that's where and how Eric struck a balance between the public standards and his personal motivation. Can we move on? Okay. Next one is Hannah. Hannah was also a pre-service teacher, EF teacher, and the ideal form is a competent homeroom teacher. So Hannah was more demanding in students' behavior and their conduct. She was quite strict. If students didn't like to be with her, but students would obey whatever Hannah said because Hannah was very strict. And I also respect Hannah's decision because she wanted to establish such image, and I just let her do whatever she wanted to do, whatever she asked the students to do. Okay, next one. The public standards, the previous one. Yes, the public standards is that Hannah was quite aware of the fact she was a student teacher. And so the student administrators, they treat those preserves teachers like they were janitors. They asked those preserves teachers to run errands frequently. And students, sometimes they have trouble getting along with the preserves teachers because they are not sure whether Hannah is a student or a teacher. So the student teachers themselves are under some invisible pressure. They have had some, we can say, identity crisis. Okay, next page. As far as her personal motives is concerned, Hannah was determined to acquire teacher's qualification. So he passed teacher's qualification test, and then he got teacher's certificate. She was eager to get the teacher's job at school. So even if she didn't pass any recruitment test, she still served as a substitute teacher after the end of the internship. Okay, next page. So the meaning in teaching for Hannah, the first one, the social value, is that students' discipline is the most important thing. It is even more important than English teaching and learning. And about the personal goal, he wants to stick to the teaching path. So even if there were fewer students, there were few job vacancies, and there were a lot of educational reforms all the time. She still wanted to be an English teacher at school. So even if there's no job vacancy for her, she still served as a substitute teacher and wait for the chance to get the official vacancy for herself. Okay, next page. After I mentored the two preserves teachers, I have some reflections. And here are three different questions that I constantly ask myself. So how do the preserves teachers develop their professional identity as EFL teachers in their internship? I think the answer consists in the three categories that I just talked about. The first one is the ideal form. They were constantly pursuing their ideal forms of an EFL teacher. And the second one is the public standards and their personal motivations. They have to strike a balance between the two. If they can strike a balance, they can become more confident about their own teaching career. And the third one is the meaning in teaching. I think the meaning in teaching is the most important thing for a teacher to construct his or her professional identity. So this is from the perspective of pre-service teachers. And the second question is, how do teacher educators I myself is a teacher educator. How do I promote the development of pre-service teachers' professional identity as EFL teachers? And in the next page, I will give some instructions from my own experience. And the third one, what are the social-cultural factors that affect the construction of pre-service teachers' professional identity as EFL teachers? And according to my dissertation, my PhD dissertation, there are several important contextual factors which are related to the social cultural factors. Here are a few of them. The first one is the students' composition. Students' composition is very important. If students are highly motivated, pre-service teachers are more likely to be encouraged or promoted. The second one is the professional community. If EFL teachers have some friends or fellow students or fellow colleagues who are also eager to get the jobs. They are more likely to promote and upgrade their professional identity. And the third one is educational policy. The educational policy is changing constantly. So it is very difficult for EFL teachers, especially new EFL teachers, to pursue the ideal professional identity. Because of the educational reforms, there are a lot of uncertainties about the educational context. The last one is the perceived expectations. So what do we expect of EFL teachers? From teachers, from students, from parents, from administrators. So there are different expectations. EFL teachers have to bear different expectations in mind. If they can bear the different expectations in mind, they are more likely to maintain or to improve their professional identity. Okay, next page. And my suggestions for pre-service EFL teachers, I think all of them are very important. Let's look at each of them. The first one, I think we need to focus on pre-service teachers' emotional experiences. I think emotion is a very important issue, but this is very abstract. This is very elusive. It is hard to observe pre-service teachers' emotional change or emotional experiences, but it's very important. I think both positive emotions and negative emotions are important. If we can take care of their positive and negative emotions, I think we can know whether they are having problems or difficulties. So this is the first suggestion for preserves EFL teachers. The second one is the co-construction.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
老师，我们先暂停一下。
好。
这边网络有出现小问题。
好。
谢谢。Okay, teacher, we can continue.
Okay, thank you. The second suggestion is the co-construction of an orientation basis with pre-service teacher. I mean, a teacher educator has to work with their pre-service teachers to set goals. If they set goals, they have to reach consensus. If they don't set goals together, maybe they have different priorities, and in the end of the their internship, the student teacher or pre-service teacher will not know where to go next. I think Eric is a good example. He didn't set a goal for himself, and I didn't set a very clear goal for him. So after his internship came to an end, he didn't know where to go. He didn't want it to be a teacher. I mean, he didn't set a goal for himself from the very beginning. So he was not quite sure about his plan throughout his internship. And Hannah is another good example. Hannah set a very specific goals for herself. I didn't discuss with her about her goals, but she has very clear goals. she wanted to be an EFL teacher. So even toward the end of her internship, there is no job vacancy for her. She still got a teaching vacancy at school, and she was waiting for her chance to become an official teacher. So that's I think a better example. So this is the second one. An orientation basis means setting goals for both teacher educator and pre-service teachers to work together toward the goal. The third one is I think I should provide immediate support for pre-service teachers in addressing resistances and challenges. Here, prompt support means that whenever they have problem or difficulty, I think I should give immediate support or encouragement or advice immediately. Sometimes I couldn't understand where the pre-service teachers' problems are. So I didn't know what kind of suggestion or help I could give them. And it's a pity that Eric didn't get my help or encouragement. If I had given him a lot more encouragement, probably he would have chosen to become an EFL teacher at a school context. He would not have gone to cram school. So I think immediate support and encouragement is also very important. The last one, clinical supervision. I think the instruction for pre-service teachers has to be problem solving. Each of my instruction should help students to solve their problems. If I could not help them solve the problems, they would leave with their problems. Okay. Okay, next page. Previous page, I have a video for students. Yes. Okay.
Hello. This presentation covers the section on teachers and learners, and we're going to start off with teachers. We could start with a question: what makes a good teacher? I think every person that we ask, if we ask them to provide us with 10 things that might be in their list, then we could come up with something that are common to everyone. Studies that have been done throughout the world tend to come up with the top 3 being that the teacher is fair, secondly, that they have knowledge of the subject that they are teaching, and finally, that they can motivate the students to learn. So the role of the teacher within the classroom is going to be very wide, and it will often change from moment to moment. In order to illustrate some of the things that the teacher could be doing at various times, we're going to use some of the things that they might say, or some of the things that they may write down, and from those we'll have a look at the role of the teacher at that point in time. So the teacher may say, for example, okay, everyone stop and look at me, and I will explain. And the role of the teacher at that particular time is that of a manager. So the teacher is actually managing what is going on in the classroom. Second thing that they might say, okay, you're going to work in pairs, and that's you, and you, and you, and so on and so forth. So what the teacher is doing at this stage is actually acting as an organizer. Third example, the teacher may say something like, that was an excellent point, John, and what he's doing there is acting as an assessor to the information that he's been given. For our fourth example, something like, good, and what did you see at the cinema? So what we're doing here is we're moving information along, and the teacher is acting as a prompter of information. Fifth example, those have all been very good examples that you've given. My own worst nightmare is, and the teacher is therefore becoming part of the class itself, and we could call that acting as a participant. Next one,
talking to a pair who are working, okay, you're both nearly right, but, and then go on to explain something. When working with individuals or with groups, you're acting more as a tutor than a teacher for the whole class. Next example. Having done certain bits of work, we can now say to the students, okay, now create your own postcard, and the teacher there is acting as a facilitator. Example number 8, the teacher may say something like, okay, now listen carefully to the way in which I pronounce this word. So what the teacher is doing in this case is actually modeling the language, acting as a model. For our final example, whilst an activity is going on, the teacher may write a note to himself, Joe and Lecker up to number 9 in this particular activity. So what the teacher is doing at this point in time is to act as a monitor for the class. So assessor, prompter, participant, tutor, facilitator, model, and monitor are some of the roles that a teacher will play. Which role that you have at any particular time in a lesson just depends entirely what is going on.
Okay, thank you so much for teachers Tsung-pin Chen PhD, because we only have 3 minutes left for your sections. So I would like to invite some of the participants, if you have some questions, and then you may ask directly to teachers Tsung-pin Chen. Okay, do you have some questions for all the participants? Maybe Ibu Saflina, do you have a question? Or Mr. Sukri Adani? If you have a question, and then you may just turn on your microphone and yeah, just say your question. Kalau seandainya ada pertanyaan, silakan boleh ditanyakan, boleh pakai bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia, tidak apa-apa. Ada yang ingin bertanya? Atau udah pada kurang konsentrasi karena udah waktunya makan siang? Okay, Mr. Sukri, do you have some questions or not?
I'll pass, Miss.
Oh, okay. How about the rest of the pre-service teachers or maybe in-service teachers? Ibu Guru atau Ibu Hilda? Ibu Nurul Hilda atau Ibu Safrini?
Oke, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'm Hilda, Kak Puan.
Okay.
Okay, Kak Puan, I am not understand much about what is the meaning of service teacher here.
Oh, okay. So that's your question.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for Miss Hilda. Okay, teacher Tsung-pin Chen, you have a question from your participant. She asked you like, because your thought is more about the pre-service teachers, right? And then she asked you like, what is the meaning of being a pre-service teacher? Okay,
A
thank you.
pre-service teacher
Yeah.
means they have not begun their teaching career. They have to serve as a student teacher. They have the identity both as a teacher and a student. They don't get any salary. They are still students. Yeah. Before their teaching career begin, they have to serve as pre-service teacher for a semester.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. Okay, jadi Miss Hilda yang dikatakan pre-service teacher di sini itu seperti misalnya sebelum jadi guru PNS ya gitu. Jadi apa identitinya itu masih bisa jadi mahasiswa ataupun juga misalnya baru kayak lulus dari S1-nya. Nah, dia belum tahu tuh identitinya dia bakal jadi in-service teacher apa enggak gitu. Okay, thank you so much for all of the participants because the second section is ended now, and then we are going to meet again at 2 p.m. Aceh time. Okay, so we are going to have the longest lunch. Sorry. This is already. Oh, sorry, because I saw my. Yeah, because I saw my my Taiwanese clock. Sorry. Okay, thank you so much. Now I would like to invite again Professor Mei-ying for the last section for before we are going to have the longest break. Okay, so Professor Mei-ying, floor is yours. Jadi sekarang kita akan invite kembali Professor Mei-ying sebelum kita punya break dari jam 12 nanti sampai jam 2 siang. Oke. Oke.
早上的 PPT。聪斌老师，嘿，好，如果你需要离开，可以离开，没关系，嘿，接下来就我了，你看，
好，谢谢老师。
好，谢谢你哦，
好，谢谢老师。
好，再见。
好，再见。
OK，来下一张，这个是早上的，下一张。
有。
可以了吗？可以了哈，好。Okay, so now it's my turn again. You see me again. Hello, everyone. Okay, selamat pagi. Oh, still selamat pagi. No? Okay. Okay, good. We are in a noon time. Okay, so I think that there's a question coming out this morning, how we could apply the theory into practice based on Vygotsky theory. Okay, so now I'm going to mention a little bit, and again this afternoon and also the whole day of December 17, we are going to talk about details. Now I'm going to try to mention some ideas, but still all those are based on the Vygotsky's, particularly from his own writing, his own books. Okay, so maybe not so many personal experience, because I still want to generalize some ideas of Vygotsky's. But I will also share some of my personal experience along with my speech. So regarding language learning, first one, we talk about instruction. And very importantly, Vygotsky mentioned in his writing, instruction ahead of development. This is very inspiring to me. And as a teacher's education educator, I apply this very much to my student teachers, or when I teach in the teacher education program. And certainly this idea also apply to my daily life, in my own family, in my community. I practice it everywhere, anytime. And why is so? As we mentioned by Vygotsky, social interactions happens very often and could be anywhere. But in terms of development, if there's interactions, then help with the cognitive development. And interaction could function as instruction. Certainly here doesn't mean institutional instruction. It could be formal or informal. I will show you the videos later. Okay. And next one will be Okay. Maturity of a specific mental functions when instruction begin. This also very critical. So in a way, when I apply these ideas, when we have the instruction, interactions, meaning mental functions begins. Even though we last period of time, I talk about interaction, semi-articles, mediation, word meaning, thought and language. Without interaction, meaning, instruction, nothing will happen. So it happens only when we do it. And as also your input, knowledgeable others. In sociology, we call it important others. But in Vygotsky, we call it more knowledgeable others. And keep in mind that knowledgeable others could be our students, could be our teacher, could be our nephews, could be our children. No matter what happens, from the film we watched, we know instructions matters. Okay. B, talking about the inference. Okay, I will give you examples later. And C is as a formal discipline, meaning the instructions from the structure. We could also form it as a subject, as a discipline. Okay, so next one. Next one. Okay, here. Interdependent, interconnected features of mental functions. When we talk about the mentals, right, we provide instruction to the less knowledgeable ones, or we could say our students. But we also need to provide voluntary and attentional logical memory, so that they could move up to abstraction thinking. And in Vygotsky's book, he mentions, if we want to move all the word meanings up to abstraction, mental process is necessary. And in language teaching, we know they are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And those abstract thinking will connect with the writing. Okay. So I want you to, and this is a very complex, unified process. As mentioned, there's some heap connections, and then chain of a complex, diffuse complex to pseudo concept. And it could be anywhere. Okay, let's take a look at another mosque in Taiwan, in Taichung, Taiwan. Okay.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله 大家好，欢迎来到肯调旅行，我是 Ken。本期节目我们非常荣幸可以来拜访这个台中清真寺。那么
跳回到原来 PPT。Okay, as you could see, there's another mosque in Taiwan. Actually, I think this one, Miss Puan, goes there often, right? Whenever you go to Taichung, you might go there, right? Okay, I went to one is a private masjid in Taoyuan City. Okay, and why I mention this mosque again? Because as we say, instruction ahead of development. Development for Vygotsky emphasize cognitive development, meaning they will start from some knowledge, understanding, analysis, applications, and also evaluation, creative, according to the theory of Bloom. That's the stages of cognitive development. And in Taiwan, as Ms. Puan came to Taiwan more than 10 years ago, at the time, we didn't have so many mosques, even at my university, that students were really curious of those ladies with hijab. Who are they? Where are they from? And in Taiwan society, we didn't know either. Not so many. Okay, but because we have more and more Muslim students, Muslim migrant workers, Muslim spouses, Muslim intellectuals coming to Taiwan. Our government purposely tried to have a Ramadan festival in Taipei train station. So it's on news. Everybody could watch. So it's a way of instruction from Taiwan government, Taipei city government. Every city actually tried to have a Ramadan, celebrate Ramadan. And this, I have observed, it helped Taiwanese people, Taiwanese citizens, to be more creative, to be more multicultural, to be able to learn about Indonesian language, Indonesian values. And this is, we provide instruction, we provide the materials in Taiwan society. So up to now, I noticed many of my family members, they understand Muslims don't eat pork. And furthermore, they know Muslims only eat halal food. So pay more attention to Muslims and pay respect to Muslims too. And because we learn the language, we learn the culture through the Taiwanese governmental instructions, we are more creative. And in a way, even I am adult, Taiwanese people, a lot are adults. More than 60% are adults. They become mentally function high level because they develop their creativity. They create their sense of multiculturalism. So they are conscious. Move on to this one. They are conscious. They are aware. And the practice, like myself, I wouldn't claim I'm mastery in Islam, but I've been consciously. So I feel I myself cognitively advanced, cognitively multicultural. Okay, so again, this is from the examples of being adult. But again, this could apply from infant to elderly people. Okay, next slide. Okay, now next to we want to understand in terms of language learning, there is a role of a native language. We talk about verbal thinking, mental process, mediation. If you want to mediate, we also need to have language, as we also mentioned, that private speech, we talk to ourselves. In the speech, somehow, not so loud, but in our thinking, we need to processing the information, processing what we are thinking, determine what we want to do. And all of that, we probably use our native language. Mostly, we might use our native language or whatever language have become more fluent. So language function as mediational tool. And this is very important in terms of language teaching and learning. If someone is bilingual, that depends on which language. If they are balanced bilingual, then they could be good at both. But to my understanding, according to information from Ms. Puan, most people in Aceh speak 3 languages or even 4. Okay, when they are born Acehnese, then at school, okay, certainly Bahasa Indonesia, and then Arabic, because every Muslim has to read Quran and also learn about Arabic in order to get close to Islam. Okay, then English. So most of them will be able to know 4 languages in a way. And what kind of mediational tool could be? It really depends individual. But in addition to language, we might need to use some materials as a tool. So in terms of English language teaching, then language and materials tool could function equally sometimes, but most of the time, language probably functions much better than tools. Okay, next one. Next slide. Okay, so now we move on to some people have mentioned to ZPD, Zone of Proximal Development. And in Vygotsky, I think ZPD, a lot of people might like to use scaffolding. Okay, but Vygotsky himself, in his writing, he didn't use a scaffolding that much. He preferred to use instruction and in the zone of a proximal development. So they are well connected. Zone of a proximal development, meaning it's almost there. They are close. So the knowledgeable others we know there, whatever issue, they have a higher level. And then the less knowledgeable one is lower level. But it really depends on different issues, different aspects. So the role might change, rotate. So this is really critical. For example, as a professor, I'm not good as doing those technological issues, computer stuff. I'm really bad. I have my team members to help me out. So they are really good, so that we use Teams. There are so many functions. But in terms of language learning and teaching, I certainly much better than them. So in a way, instruction depends on the context. ZPD all depends on the context. Okay, occasions. And ZPD also. I'm going to use ZPD later all through my speech. So ZPD is dynamic. We need to keep in mind. And also the context, because it always depends on the context. So when the context change, then who is the knowledgeable ones or the interaction style might change. And this one is ZPD according to Vygotsky. That's the way to be successful. That's the way or the point we need to pay attention when we do instruction. So how to define ZPD? ZPD meaning the difference between the child mental age. For example, if the child is 5 years old, then we provide a little bit more, a little bit higher level. And this is also critical if a person, a student, is already 12 years old, but somehow, look at here, mental age could be only 8 years old because he or she is mentally retarded, or maybe it just the student has been isolated from social interaction. That's why his cognitive development is slower than the age, or could be illness, could be any reason. So the mental age, that's the key. So we cannot determine by the grades only. Second, difference between the child actually level of development. That's why I just mentioned. So we need to pay attention if the students are gifted, talented, or just normal ones, or developmentally retarded. So we could justify our instruction, and the ZPD will be different. So that's why we also use this idea into collaborative teaching and learning, because even among students, they have a different gifts, they have a different talents according to Gardner. For example, they are good at literacy, they are good at music, some are good at physical education, some are good at logical and mathematics. So we have to pay attention to what our students could do, meaning their talents. So they might have a different development. Third one is level of performance that he achieved in collaboration with the adult. Here, the keywords will be collaboration with adult. Adult not necessary here. I think we should, in Vygotsky theory, we like to use more knowledgeable others. That's the perfect terms. Yet, in his book, published in 1934, I think at the time, because I read the English version, so I think that at the time he used the term adult. But up to now, I think the most scholars in psychology use them, or in practice, we use the term more knowledgeable ones. Okay, next slide. Okay, here I would like to share some, as I mentioned, that instruction ahead of development, and instruction help cognitive development. Instruction by using ZPD helps success. Okay, so this is some language learners. One is my niece, and I get the permission from her. Right now she is 10 years old. Okay, so we did it 6 months ago, and she told me she would like to create a picture book. She loves drawing. Okay, her name is Ruby. Okay, Chinese name Weirong. So she told me, okay, auntie, could we create? I would like to create a picture book. I love drawing. So based on the idea of Vygotsky, I told her, oh, okay, how about this? I actually inquired her, you want to create a picture book? What kind of picture book do you want to create? She said, I have no idea. Anything, because I love drawing. I just want to have picture books. I want to create my own story, and particularly I could use the opportunity to do a lot of drawing. That would be very pleasant enjoyable. Okay, so that's the beginning of this story. So I guide her by asking, how about you also taking English courses, and also you are going to cram school for extra classes, and you love English too, right? Would you like to try to create an English picture book? And she was scared. She told me she didn't know if she has such ability, because she only learned English for 1 year in elementary school, almost 2 years in elementary school, not so much. And we know everything is so simple, the vocabulary is so simple. But she goes to Korean school, I know. She read aloud English books to me once in a while, and she enjoyed the pictures, she enjoyed the English sounds. So we have a lot of interactions. I keep the ideas of Vygotsky's socio-cultural interactions. So I was quite patient to guide her. So she told me, I don't think I could create picture books in English. I don't think so. You know, I'm really bad in English. I'm not good. That's for English, for Americans, not for me. I'm Taiwanese. I know Chinese. Okay, that's her response. But anyhow, I say, but how about this? Let's try to say some words. I know you could say, my father is Kang Yuming, my name is Ruby, I has a brother. Didn't you say such a sentence to me? So she just laughed loudly. But we didn't finish the conversation. I probably continuously talking about this topic, maybe for about 3 days. But she initiate, oh, auntie, do you think I could do it? I said, well, I think you can, but again, it's your work. It's up to you. If I were you, I would try. But most importantly, I will help you out. I will work with you. Okay, so we get started. And I say, how about this? Do you want to say some sentence? And I record onto my cell phone. So she came out the first sentence. I will ask, so would you please tell me what's your name? So what's your name? And she responds, my name is Ruby. How old are you? I am 9 years old. Okay, that's the time when we have such conversation. But anyhow, so we continue something like this for a few days. And finally, she feel self-confident enough. So when she said, I will record even just 1 sentence, 2 sentence, 3 sentence. So we did it, actually just doing the recording for almost a week. So I will encourage her, how about let's try to say some English words, sentence again. And about, so she said, I would like to talk about my family, because the family, that's the vocabulary she learned. So I pay attention, what vocabulary, what sentence patterns she has learned. And also psychological condition. Okay, so she consciously knows she would like to do. And certainly, as says, she need to think, meaning she need to go through a lot mental process to do this. And from our interaction, I know she had a hard time. She had some difficulty, come out some words, come out some meanings, and sometimes she mixed 3 languages, Taiwanese, Chinese, and English. But I was with her, I worked with her. I just provide some English word when she couldn't, Or she said, don't tell me, I'm going to look up in my book. And I remember my teacher told me about the vocabulary. Please don't tell me right now. I want to find out the answer by myself. And she has a dictionary. So that's how it come out. Okay, now we listen to the English version first. Could you click on it? 那个那个有 It is a happy family 那个，就是最左边，最右边，对不起，最右边。
A happy family. I am 10 years old. My name is Ruby. Strawberry is my favorite fruit. I am from Taiwan. My father is a computer engineer. He is smart. He likes chocolate. Everyone loves father. My mother is a teacher. Fish and fruit is her favorite food. She is kind and famous. My brother is a student. Tomatoes